What is going on, everyone? My name is Northy and I am here today to talk to you guys about your best AFL football moments. Now, I did preface this is what I should be saying, with a bit of a disclaimer. It can be funny or it can just be a memorable moment. It can be local, it can be from the AFL, it could be from any possible facet of life in terms of AFL football. I am keen to see what you guys have been mentioning. It looks like we've got a few comments here with some good stories. I'm hopeful that things like this will be a bit more regular in the future. I have already, at the time of recording this, put something out on Instagram so that you guys have some more stuff, and that video should be coming out on Thursday. If you guys did participate in that Instagram story that I put out yesterday, then you would be seeing all those answers hopefully showing up on the Thursday. But nonetheless, I hope that you guys enjoy the video today. I'm in the mood to reminisce, and with that reminiscent feeling, I want to reminisce with you guys. You giving me your stories, I'll give some stories back if I feel necessary. But there's a lot of cool things that it looks like have been mentioned here. So Floydy Nation 12 says, my best football story would have to be the time that I dislocated my shoulder in the ruck when I was 12, but I decided to play out the game anyway. I can remember the pain like it was yesterday. Yeah, not an ideal thing to be happening. I've seen my fair share of dislocations in my lifetime, and it's never fun. It's never good. Especially, I've just seen a lot of fingers. I've had finger dislocations in my past. Well, not even that. I broke my finger once. Doctors thought it was a dislocation, and so they treated it as such and just ended up breaking it more, which is not great. That story somehow keeps finding its way back into my life. That when I broke my finger, it was an Auskick day. When I was in Auskick, I can't even remember how old I was. Probably 6 or 7. Imagine a small Auskick ball, which I say small now, it'd be small for me in my big hands now, but when I was younger, imagine about half the size of my hand here, an Auskick football finding its way in between the fingers. At least that's what I remember it as. It could have been a lot different, but there's only one way that finger broke itself, and that's the only way that I could kind of think of it happening. So I think the ball went in between the fingers and ended up breaking it, which is not good, obviously. I just remember it when I think of dislocations because, like, everyone told me that it was dislocated. It was outwards, so everyone thought, okay, that's got to be dislocated, but it was a break. And so it wasn't good when the doctors treated it as a dislocation because they tried putting it back in place, not realizing there's no place to put it that will stay there, so it wasn't great. So I know family members who, like, I have a lot of tall people in my family, I guess. My dad was a ruckman when he played football. I didn't grow to the height I'm at now until I got to 16 or 17. I could maybe play ruck now. I think I'm close to 194 centimeters in real life, so damn near 2 meters, but not quite. So if I was on maybe a small team, I could potentially be a ruckman. I'm not too sure. I really don't know, but I never played ruck growing up. I was much smaller. I played off the half forward, sometimes pockets, and then I think I remember a lot off the wing eventually in my later years. That's all I remember, at least, but not really keen on thinking about all the injuries I got when I was younger. But Floydy, I hope you're all right, mate. So, considering you say you can remember the pain like it was yesterday, I hope you're doing all right now. Catman Sports, I know him. I've seen him in real life. I think I remember meeting him at a hardman football competition or something. He remembers being at last year's grand final and watching the Catters win the premiership. Man, I wish, I'm really hopeful that within the next 10 years, North can do something like that. It's such wishful thinking too. When you think about it in the grand scheme of things, like, you have to be super lucky to witness your team win a premiership, especially with more teams coming around now. I'm hoping that North Melbourne in some way can find the form that will give them the motivation to play up to their potential, because there's a lot of good young players now. It's good that we've got a lot of young talent with some decent veterans around to give them that nurturing. But oh man, if it doesn't feel like it's going to be forever until we win a premiership, man, I'm so keen for when North can win one. But I could imagine how good the feeling would be of being able to go to a grand final day with your team in it, first off, and then seeing them win as well. Just an amazing feeling. I was born the year after my team won its last premiership. I was born in 2000. North last won their premiership in 1999. So my life has just been in absolute pain ever since. I'm going to go to this comment now, actually, because it kind of sums up, you know, the unluckiness I have. North leading the Dons by 69 points, then lost by 2 goals. Yeah, I think that's, yeah, North hold the record, I think, for the most wooden spoons, biggest margin to lead by before losing the game. I think that's the biggest choke, basically. And that game finished on a ridiculous score. I can't remember it off the top of my head. I'll chuck it up on the screen somewhere, but that game finished with such a high-scoring final score. We would never see something like that in the state the game is at today. But that in particular game just goes to show how unlucky being a North fan can be sometimes. I swear, it is so tough sometimes, but, you know, I wouldn't give it up for anything. At least North had their success at times. I always thought of North as like the most dominant team of the 90s when growing up, but realistically, even in the 90s when we did win our premierships, we had disappointment. The 98 and 97 premierships going to Adelaide, Of course. We got 96 and 99 at least, but considering how dominant North were in the 90s from what I was told, considering how dominant they were to only win the 2 premierships and then fall off ever since has got to be some type of unluckiness, man. I just remember the mid-10s being super painful as well. That'll lead me to this comment from North Nerd here. I was very young, like 7, when North Melbourne beat Essendon in the semis. I was going so crazy. It was the first time I had ever cried for being so happy in sport. I hope North can get Clark back on track and clock some wins up. God, I hope so too, and it looks like you are too. But yeah, I remember the North Melbourne Essendon game. It was the most exciting game at the time that I'd ever watched. I was jumping up and down. At the time, it was 2014, so I would have been 13 at the time. I was jumping up and down, going crazy. It was a ridiculous game. So, like, scary. I remember the Frank the Tank, if you remember that celebration. Oh, man, that entire game was just absolutely amazing time. And then, yeah, I bring up this comment after my previous statement because it just reminds me of how disappointing the rest of like everything after that final was. I remember 2015, we got to the prelim as a 6 or a 7th place finish on the ladder. We got to the prelim and it looked like we could have made it to the granny, and then I think we got smoked by Sydney or West Coast. I think one year was Sydney and then the next was West Coast. So it could have actually been 2014, then 15. Yeah, it would have been, so 2013 we had the Essendon win, I think. So I would have even been 12 at the time, 2013. 2014 was then, I believe it was Sydney. We lost to Sydney in the prelim, if I'm thinking about this correctly. I can't remember off the top of my head, but 2015, I think we looked like we had a real chance. We did it again. We managed to finish just low enough in the ladder to just make it into finals, and then made it to the prelim again off of a really hard fought effort. So much talent on the team, and we couldn't manage to get it. We couldn't manage to get even just to a grand final with so much talent. And then 2016, we started the year absolutely on fire, absolutely amazing, and then dropped off the face of the earth to finish 8th and get bounced in the first game. Like, the mid-2010s had so much potential for North Melbourne to at least just make a grand final. At least being able to go back and say, oh, at least North went to the grand final at some point. Haven't even seen that. I haven't even been lucky enough to see that. So, you know, I gotta wait just a little bit longer, hopefully. And hopefully I'll see my team in there somewhere. But nonetheless, yeah, just like, I hope that we can get back on track and clock up some wins as well, North Nerd. I really do. Next up is Izzy, who's been a long-time viewer. And their best footy memory is running onto the field for Buddy's 1000th goal and taking over an hour to get everyone off the field. And it was right as the game was ending. I remember so much about that day. I remember the camera angle as the goal was being kicked, that was covered by the chick who wouldn't get out of the way, and then everyone photoshopped just that head on historic moments. Great meme. I think it was James Rowbottom and Chad Warner were seen outside of the stadium in their full kit, just walking around with everyone else, which was incredible as well. Oh, I could only imagine how good it would be being there. I think one of my co-workers at the time drove up to Sydney, watched the game, drove back, and then worked in the morning. They went and did all of that. They drove up to Sydney, drove back down to Melbourne, and then started very early for their work. And it was just, the entire thing was just so historic, so memorable, and definitely a good one from Izzy. And the last one I've got here is from the Racing Brothers. I once broke our LED, I think it's LED, he meant to say light, window in rage because I lost the game of indoor footy to my brother. And this brings a memory. It's unfortunate in the moment. When you do it in the moment, it's unfortunate, but it just reminded me of a really, really funny thing. I'm going to take you guys on a little bit of a journey. Just come with me real quick. This is the closest any of you guys will ever get to a house tour, okay? So we've got this nice lovely couch in this lounge room in a specific area. No reason why exactly, except for one thing. As we kind of go over here. If you see that damage, ignore it. This is all explainable. It's not too great, and I'll explain why. How you doing, buddy? So that happened because I had played, I guess, a game of indoor soccer as well. I think you said indoor footy. I think I played like volleyball or something with my sister. We had like this big inflatable beach ball that we just kind of kicking around. I went ahead to go and kick it. Instead, stood on top of it, slipped, and put my head into where that damage is. So, if you're wondering how that happened, because my head went through it. My head went through the wall, and the damage is still, that's from a few years ago. It's still there, we just covered it up. So, my family's watching this. Sorry again for that, but it's funny looking back on it now. You can't blame me for it. I think it was pretty funny, but yeah, that's an interesting story to end it on. Really, really good to reminisce with all you guys. I loved all the comments that you guys chucked in here. Really, really good stuff. And I hope to do something like this again in the future. Again, have a similar one coming out on Thursday that I hope you guys are excited for. It'll all be on my Instagram at NorthyAFL, which you can see on the top here, my at NorthyAFL. And I would heavily suggest checking out another video on this channel if you enjoyed this one. I do a bunch of team coach content, and I do other forms of content, which are simple AFL discussion, which I hope is similar to something like this. So be sure to check out the video that you can see on the screen now, as well as subscribing to the channel. Be sure to like the video as well. Everything, always, very, very much appreciated. I hope you guys enjoyed this video, and I'll see you all in the next one. Goodbye.